Okay, so this is a video for the Arch 6474 course to go over HDR, introducing HDR images. I put a link on the website where you can download some free ones. If you get a free one, it's got HDR images, high-res JPEGs, some preview thumbnails usually, but what we're going to deal with here is if you're missing backplates to render onto. I showed a sphere in the background extractor file number 1. This is the second one, which has imported geometry that's had to be resmoothed from Autodesk Showcase into 3D Studio Max, so you can see it's got kind of a squashed sphere and then a ground plane, so you can hold Control down and click on both of those to select them. At the same time, click in Open Space to deselect. There's also a camera in here, which middle mouse click will pan your viewports. And then if you right click on objects, you have a context sensitive menu that has move, rotate, scale, a bunch of other things, like you can select the target from here more easily, and then vice versa, go back to the camera. If you select move, you'll have this gizmo that you can move things around. Planar constraints, axis constraint in each viewport. So I usually middle click to pan in the viewport to activate it with this yellow around the corners, and then hover over and then click and hold and drag to move around. So right now, this is what I wanted to introduce, was the idea of the material editor and the fact that if you make a file in 3D Studio Max, you need to have any references that the file references move with it, and a lot of times you will have to repoint to those references. If you're on a school computer, it's got a C drive and redirected to somewhere on the network, your desktop or where your pictures are. Then when you get home, you're going to have to repoint because you don't have access to that server. So introduce the material editor here. Last time in class we went over the render buttons here, which most of the information you need here. If you're not used to the shortcut maneuvering and the viewport controls, those are down on your bottom right here. Pan, orbit, that just toggles between viewports, kind of like double clicking the name in Rhino. So here we go, we're going to hit the material editor. When it first starts up, it actually starts in the slate material editor, which looks like this. We're going to go back, since it's a little more tutorials are out there on the older editor. We'll get into this maybe later in the class if we get time, but we'll switch to the compact material editor. You just can pop back and forth by changing the modes here. I've got a couple extra windows, or extra kind of samples in here. You can actually go and change some of the options in here, like the slots 3x2, 5x3, 6x4. So anyways, so I mentioned in class, if an object has a material applied to it, it's got these white triangles. If I deselect, it's got gray, which means it's used in the scene. Nothing's using this one here, so there are no triangles, but if I applied this to it, you will see them change. And that one will lose it because that was the only object that had it applied. Alright, so these are basically materials that you can load up or create. These are standard materials, it says here. If you click this button, you've got a lot of other options. We'll go over that in the class later. I'm just going to close that out and keep it a standard material. This file is set up already for you to render background plates, ambient lights turned all the way up, no global illumination or anything like that. It's turned on and there's no lights in the scene. So what we're going to do is repoint to the material. You can see I'm looking for a winter forest 8K JPEG. So if I click on that button, this is where I've kind of gone deep into the stack. I can go up on the stack here. So this is the material, and then I've gone into that extra material slot that's pointing to a bitmap, which again you can click on and have a lot of other options, but we're sticking with the bitmap. Some of these other ones are the procedural materials that I mentioned, or procedural maps. So at the bottom here, or middle here, this is where you actually point to your location. You can see mine's actually looking on our network. I'm at home right now, so I am going to repoint it to my desktop one here. Forest 8K. So this is what I mentioned. This is what we downloaded. We got an HDR file, a preview one that's lower resolution. You can look at the file sizes and see. And then this is one we'll use later on to actually light our scenes, which is the HDR image. And I had you download one in class too from Peter Guthrie's site. So I'm going to go ahead and hit open. And you can see you got a couple options here. You can use texture environment or texture. It's loading the texture, so it's taking a little while. It's a fairly large texture, so okay. So you can see you've got this radio button at the top. If the object has UVW coordinates, which I think the sphere did, you can use it, or you can override it and just say it's going to be a spherical mapping no matter what. It's not based on the geometry, it's based on the environment. So if one doesn't work, you can always try the other. And then we can apply it to the objects here. They are applied. And we should be able to render and not get a error. Okay, maybe this is a... Okay, so there we go. So one thing to mention on these images, you can see this one. If I open it, Airfound View, hit F, it'll toggle between full resolution, which is my screen is not big enough to capture, or fit the screen. So you can see there's a lot of stuff in the foreground, so this is going to be a pretty tough thing to extract a plate out of. Need a real wide angle lens. I think there's a pathway going each way, or it's kind of a T-shaped intersection, but there are trees really close. Most of the HDR images will have a longer view, which you can use to extract a background plate, but I just wanted to use this as an example to show it is a little more difficult to get a good render out of it. And we've got, I think, the other tropical beach one here that can serve as well. So